All right, we are live, and it has been a very, very active day for the Houston Texans. The combine concludes. We're transitioning into free agency, and I'll be damned, not one but two trades. One very early, Tytus Howard, he gone. He goes to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for a fourth-round pick. He also gets paid significantly. Excuse me, is it fifth? It ended up being a fifth.
Yeah.
In exchange for, I'm ahead to my numbers. We'll get to that other number in a second, I can assure you. In exchange for a fifth-round pick, he then gets $40+ million in new money, and the Texans move on, and more questions emerge when it comes to the offensive line. We also see the Texans. We said they needed to make a move for running back. They make a move, a pretty big one for David Montgomery. Where do we start, Stoots? Where do you want to start? Two trades in one day. A very active Monday.
I think you start with Tytus Howard because we had operated for the better part of this offseason since they walked off the field with the New England Patriots as if Tytus Howard was headed into his final season with the Houston Texans. And ultimately, the Texans found a trade partner. They got the number one pick in the fifth round that the Browns owned from the Raiders. So it ends up currently, as we talk about it, being the 139th overall selection in the draft. They sent Tytus Howard, and man, I liked the trade when they made the trade. I loved the trade when I saw what he got paid. Like, if that's what he wanted to get paid in Houston, thank the good Lord in heaven that he's not making that on the Texans, because that is an outrageous number for Tytus Howard. He wasn't worth the first contract extension. He's not worth that one. And I know the Browns got money to burn and extra, and they are desperate at the offensive line. The Texans clearly were not that desperate to, bend to Tytus's desire and get him a new contract. So they move on. And yet again, the offensive line shuffle will continue, and there's going to have to be some significant new faces on an offensive line that has, from the most consistent or from the most repetitive offensive line, they have just two players left off that line on the roster in Ariante Ursary and Jake Andrews. And it was the number one need when the offseason started. The need became greater once they got rid of Tytus Howard.
Yeah, and I don't really have to adjust what I've said about Tytus Howard. Like my whole thing with Tytus Howard has been his biggest value was his versatility. Like that was his biggest value. I didn't even want to engage in the discussion about is he better at guard or tackle, because I don't think he was that great at either one. I do think Tytus Howard came a long way this past season. I think the subtraction of Laramie Tunsil helped him. You could see it physically, and you could hear it through his voice. So other than that, I think we used the word consolidated when it came to where the status of Tytus Howard's contract situation is. I think we both believed it would have been a mistake to push that back and make it like a 3-year type of stretch out. So I'm with you. It's valuable. Like this type of versatility is valuable, especially in the NFL where you're starting right tackle, there's a chance he's going to get hurt. You're starting guard, there's a chance he's going to get hurt. And Tytus Howard, you can plug him in and play him. But I think as far as thinking long-term and trying to figure some stuff out, I think this is a good deal. And I'm with you on the contract. I don't know what Cleveland's thinking. And I think from like a mental perspective, I said this on my reaction video earlier today on the locker room. I think if you are a Tytus Howard fan and you were kind of hesitant that he was being traded, I think you probably look at who they traded him to and say, damn, okay, well, maybe they got over on him, because the next trade that the Browns win against the Texans will be the first trade that the Browns win against the Texans. We have to go back to probably the Brock Osweiler deal that ended up in them drafting Nick Chubb before he was a ghost and arrived in Houston when he was one of the best running backs in the league. So the Tytus Howard thing, more power to him, and more power to them for making this decision. And again, all hail King Cole, because Cole Popovich is completely wiping this thing up. And he got to get rid of one of his least favorite guys, which we'll get to in a second. But Tytus Howard gone. Good season last year. I don't think that it's possible for the Texans to have the success that they did without his versatility. But moving forward, find 5 guys who are really, really good at positions in a perfect world and have backups who can adjust accordingly.
Yeah, it would be nice to see this parlayed into free agents that hopefully only play one position and are very good at it. The Howard trade could look a lot worse if a week and a day from today, we're talking about the Texans and they haven't signed any offensive lineman. It'd be like, Well, then why'd you get rid of a guy that could play a couple of positions? And yes, he wanted more money. You didn't have to give it to him. Why'd you do that? So it clearly puts the Texans into a category of shopping for offensive linemen that we already believed they were in, but it became more imperative that they shop and shop well for offensive linemen. Anybody ask about cap ramifications? Texan cap has it. They save a little over $4 million in cap, but they save a bunch more in the actual cash. The dead money was going to happen no matter what. If he was on the roster, he gets the money. He's off the roster, they write him a check on the way out the door. So that was a product of how you failed in the initial extension that Tytus Howard got and how it was too expensive, and he never really lived up to that, and he'll have a hard time living up to this current extension with the Browns. But this trade can only end up being, somewhat of a good thing if you go and you fill out this offensive line with worthwhile football players. If we're sitting here in 8 days talking about an O-line that doesn't have very many veterans, or they went and bargain shopped for 2 new faces on the offensive line, it's going to be a little bit more like, could you have just made it one more year with Tytus Howard and then figured something else out?
On the chat, Stacy, this is the best number that I've seen today, and this is probably the most accurate too.
Swarm.
She says we are one Cody shower away from free agency. That's about right. Good call on that one, Stacy. Rodzilla asks, would y'all say it's accurate to say the game plan appears to solve the RB problem now and invest primarily in offensive line in the draft? I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think they're going to invest in a lot in the draft. I think but I will say, like, if we're talking about the draft, it's a piss poor running back draft. I'm still not opposed to drafting one of these guys a little bit later, like a running back to like plug into the room, but it's an extremely piss poor running back draft. And you did not want to go into the draft needing a running back, which brings us to the next move. And we'll tie this all together in a sec. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Very active day on SNL. We're back in studio from the NFL Combine. I assume we'll get more offensive line focused at a later time. This was kind of a rip the run sheet. Cody, I appreciate your service, but there's some stuff that jumped the line when it comes to the offensive line draft prospects. Obviously, the Texans they made a move for running back David Montgomery. And this one is an interesting one. I think it was looked at, the reaction and some of the chatter, I think, was interesting in a number of ways, because I think the running back market, if you look at what it was 2 years ago when they got Mixon, it was one of the steepest running back markets that we'd seen in a long time, to the point where a lot of running backs were like forming some coalition saying that running backs were devalued. And it's kind of changed now. But I guess, like, on one hand, you look at that and you say, okay, Joe Mixon wasn't going to be in Cincinnati. They didn't want to do wrong by Joe Mixon. And the Texans, to keep him off the market, they just traded a 7th-round pick to Cincinnati, and they got Joe Mixon, who I think most people would agree, heading into his 8th season, is a better player than David Montgomery is heading into his 8th season.
Sure, absolutely.
So the Texans end up trading a 4th, a 7th, and Juice Scruggs. So the Lions can do kind of the Kenyon Green, Ed Ingram kind of tire kick for David Montgomery. Before we get into the state of the running back position, all that, what were your initial thoughts on the compensation? Tell the new crowd what your thoughts were.
Well, it felt pricey when Ian Rappaport initially reported it as just a 5th-round pick. And then it became clear that Ian Rappaport had the compensation incorrect, and it ultimately ended up being the latter of the 4th-round picks that the Texans had. They had 2 of them. And then I don't care about Juice Scruggs and the 7th-round pick. You had 2 7th-round picks, cool, whatever. And then Juice Scruggs was not going to be on this football team. He barely made the team last year. They refused to play him at different points in the season. So that one didn't matter that much. But 4th round for a running back who is going to be 29 years old, the contract is, yes, the Texans inherit a contract where it's easy to get out of, but you didn't trade for the guy to get out of the contract. It's a fairly expensive contract. His average annual value is like right around the top 10 of running backs. Obviously, that's going to get pushed down with some of these free agency numbers. And I just still feel like the compensation is high. And then you get the you see that, okay, well, there was another team involved, and perhaps the Texans upped the compensation to
that hasn't been reported. That's just been speculated, right? Like I haven't seen any substance to. I saw Cap, and a lot of times guys will like lean with Nick Caserio whenever he makes a move, regardless of how foolish it is, or how there's no method to the madness. Have we gotten a report on that? And forgive me if I haven't seen it. I've seen two guys speculate that perhaps there was comment, but I haven't seen a report that the Texans were in some bidding war for David Montgomery.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Greg Rosenthal say it, and then I saw
speculating. He presented.
Nobody's gone on the record and said, "Hey, this is what happened and this is what happened." So nobody's reported it. It would make sense that Ian Rappaport got it wrong when Ian Rappaport doesn't get stuff like that wrong and says a 5th round pick, and then somebody jumps in and tries to outbid the Texans. I suppose, to me, that's how I see it. If it's a 5th, if it's a 4th, if it's either of the 5ths, if it's either of the 4ths, it still feels expensive to me. It still feels expensive to me. Now, if you look at it as Tytus Howard and 11 spots in the draft for David Montgomery, I feel like that's probably how Nick Caserio is going to try to spin it and sell it. But to me, Montgomery, even the 5th round pick, certainly the 4th round pick, it felt a little expensive for a guy who's where he is in his career. He's very clearly a committee back. He's had some less impressive years the past couple of years, and I understand he's not getting the same amount of carries. That should mean more for a power back. That should be better for a power back when he's getting less carries. That hasn't quite been the case for Montgomery. It's been a few years since he's maximized his yards per attempt. He's been a 1,000-yard rusher twice in his career, but it's been a while since then. So he's a fine player. He's better than what the Texans obviously had last year. He's a good complement to Woody Marks, but he just felt expensive.
All right, so here's my thing on this compensation. Number one, it seemed like the Lions were trying to do right by David Montgomery. Like it seemed like they were trying to do right by him. It was reported that he wanted to be in Houston. So that's doing right. Texans also, they're not in the conference, they're not in the division, so there's none of that crap that you have to worry about either. The other thing that I'm kind of confused about, and I saw that I don't think he tried to dunk on you, and he's our boy. But Brandon Scott said, when you said that the compensation seems a little bit high, I'll just pull it up. He said, you said it seemed a little pricey. Brandon said 14 million plus for any of the available RBs on the market felt way too pricier. There's one guy that's being talked about for 14 mil plus, and that is
Kenneth Walker.
That is Kenneth Walker. Outside of that, that's not anything that is going to happen. And then he also said, shout out to B. Scott. He said, when a team finishes in the top 8 3 seasons in a row and still has a really good group of young players, I don't mind them devaluing a 4th round pick for a player who can immediately impact the team. Here's where I kind of roll my eyes at that, along with some of like the immediate benefit of the doubt that Nick Caserio gets. Trading a 4th and a 7th for what David Montgomery is going to make. And let's be honest, we know how the Texans handle stuff. There's a chance he gets a better contract from them. But even if they're just going to take him at this contract, and I know he doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money, I think he's scheduled to make like $6 million next year. That's not bargain shopping. That might be avoiding Walker, but that's not a bargain shopping type of move when you're giving up a 4th and a 7th for David Montgomery. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that that's the worst thing, but based on what you gave up and based on what you're either going to pay him with his current contract or what you're going to pay him with the contract that perhaps Nick Caserio changes, this is shopping at the very top, right below Kenneth Walker. Like this is when you factor in the compensation, I would bet that this is probably around what the Algiers get. I would bet that this is probably maybe even more than what Rico Dowdle gets. So all the running backs that we were talking about at the top, that is this. So to me, if the Texans were in some bidding war, some imaginary bidding war that we hear about, I'm not questioning it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying this is not cheap. And maybe they just watched all the running backs and they said, okay, Kenneth Walker's okay, but that's too expensive. And we like David Montgomery more than we like Rico Dowdle. We like David Montgomery more than we do Tyler Algier. We like David Montgomery more than we do any other running back on the market, Travis Etienne. We like him more. That would make sense. And that would be fine. And quite frankly, I don't think that's the most insane argument for them to present. But the notion that this is like some kind of cheap running back shopping, this is granted with what this market is, this is a pretty strong investment in the position. And I will also say this, because we've been here for a while. I don't think you can minimize a 4th round pick with the Houston Texans. And you would only have had to been in Houston for 4 years to understand that. First of all, Nick Caserio uses 4th round picks to trade up into the 3rd round. We've seen him do that. There's a lot of examples of Nick Caserio trading 4th round picks on draft days to get guys that make significant impact, young players. The other thing is, could I interest you in a stat? Mm-hmm. In 2 of the last 4 seasons, your leading rusher has been a 4th round pick that was a rookie that year. So I know this running back market isn't what some of the previous ones have been, but you can find some stuff in the 4th round. So I say all that to say this is not bargain shopping. This is not avoiding the running back market, although it does minimize what you need in the draft. This is saying that we do not want to pay Walker, and we think that David Montgomery, fair or not, is better than anyone a notch below, because I don't think the cost will be much different.
Yeah, the expensiveness of Montgomery is not necessarily exactly what he makes in the contract, because I do believe that, Breece Hall is not going to make it to true free agency. The Jets are going to put some sort of tag on him. Maybe the exclusive, maybe the transition tag. Walker's obviously going to make a tremendous amount of money. Etienne, I feel like, will make more money. I also feel like he's a better football player. Maybe not exactly what the Texans wanted, but a better football player. And I think Dowdle's going to make more money. And I feel like he's just slightly better than Montgomery, with a little bit longer, with a little bit more juice left to his game, and maybe a little bit more unknown to his game than Montgomery. But Montgomery's I think he's making as much money or more money than Algier is going to make, and you had to use the draft pick to get him. And I just wonder, sure, there was another team involved, or maybe there were other teams involved. If he hits true free agency, he makes about what the Texans are going to end up paying him, maybe a little bit more. Now, obviously, was he going to hit true free agency? Only the Lions really know that. So I think that's the other element too, Landry, is this running back room. I know not just dollars and cents, but the investment in this running back room, boy, it got very expensive very fast. And it's not like it's one of the best running back rooms in football. Because think about this. You're paying David Montgomery, let's call it a top 12 contract at running back right now. It may go down, but let's call it top 12 at running back right now. You also used a 4th round and a 7th round pick to get him. Woody Marks is a rookie that you drafted in the 4th round, and you traded a 3rd round pick to go and get him. So you've used a 4th, a 3rd, a 7th, and the money of David Montgomery to build this running back room. Like, that's a pretty expensive running back room, and it's really not like some badass, awesome running back room. It's better than what they had last year, but it's not like, oh man, they can run on anybody.
Now, the thing that Montgomery does bring to the table is he's really good in short yardage. We know that their red zone offense is just god awful, so that helps. The other thing is, if you're going to have a committee, and right now you have a 1A, 1B with Woody Marks and Montgomery, then you have 2 guys who can pretty much do everything. Now, I will say that's a good thing, because a lot of times when you have a committee, it's like, well, this guy can't pass block. This guy's slow. This guy's like, you have guys who can are pretty good in pass pro, and guys who can do a number of things. He's actually an underrated receiver as well. But
the main part of his game that he probably doesn't get enough credit for.
Well, when you have Jahmyr Gibbs, it's probably a little tough.
But even going back to Chicago days, he could catch the football a little bit.
For sure. Now, but I will say, like, the main point that I'm trying to make with all this compensation talk is not to say that Nick Caserio is a dipshit or he did something stupid or anything like that. Although he is kind of reckless with the picks. my thing is these actions and this equity that they're trading, it's symbolic of a team that believes they're getting the second best running back on the market, not named Kenneth Walker. That's the main point that I'm making, is that they obviously really, really like David Montgomery. We'll see what it looks like. But this is not like let's avoid the market. This is, we like this guy. We want this guy. We think he's better than these other guys.
Can I offer a potential Caserio thought process to getting Montgomery and not shopping in free agency? Beyond the, hey, these guys may just cost too much for us and we need to spend money elsewhere. Like that's a pretty obvious thing to kind of maybe put on the Texans. They think Kenneth Walker's going to be really expensive. They maybe think the other guys are going to be really expensive. And they think Montgomery for a fourth in this number's a better investment. So beyond that, if you believe the rumor from a couple of years ago that the Texans had a competitive offer for Saquon Barkley and he picked the Philadelphia Eagles instead of the Texans, I wonder if that worried, annoyed, scared Nick Caserio shopping in this free agency market, thinking, hey, I'm going to chase this. If I don't get it, by the time they found out what Barkley had decided, most of the free agency running backs of note were gone. They had to pivot to Joe Mixon. It worked out, but they couldn't have foreseen Joe Mixon being a solution when they had initially missed out on Saquon. I wonder if part of that was in the back of Caserio's head, like, and I had a competitive offer last time for one of the top guys. He screwed me and picked another offer, and then I didn't have anything else to pivot. I'm just going to get what I have and what I can get and what I feel good about right now and make it work. And I wonder if that's a little bit of an element of not shopping in this free agency class.
I think that's a very, very fair assessment. And I will say, like, we compare markets, and this running back market sucks. Draft wise, and really the market itself. And in fairness to Nick, the market in which they got Mixon was like, I mean, that's like comparing, I don't know, Taste of Texas to, I don't want to insult a restaurant, but you pick the worst restaurant you can possibly think of. Like it's not the same. It's not the same market. So I will say that it's just, hopefully for the sake of everyone, they got a guy who was one of the 2 or 3 best running backs that was going to be available. Because if not, then it's a big miss by them, because the reality is it's not like any of these other guys are just going to be insanely expensive outside of Walker. I can understand the Walker thing.
If he was headed into free agency, if he didn't have a contract and he was walking out of the building in Detroit into free agency, I would have him behind Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, and I'd have him behind Rico Dowdle. So I'd have him as the 5th best free agent running back in my assessment of where the running backs are. Now, he possesses, with his short yardage ability, something that I don't know that Etienne totally possesses. I feel like Dowdle, Hall, and Walker can give you that. So Etienne's a little bit different. But 4th or 5th, I would think, is where Montgomery would be as a free agent running back for most people. And that's now who the pseudo number 1 is for the Texans, and then Woody's his complement.
Swarm.
Logan Taylor on the chat. Shout out to everyone for riding along with us on Trader Nick Monday here on SNL. We'll be on the Texans Collective at 6, locker room 10:30. We're going to have some funerals for Juice Scruggs and Tytus Howard and go a little bit more into this. We're going to remember them. Logan Taylor says, does Demo come in as RB1 or as a backup for Woody? He's RB1, I would think. Mm-hmm. And hopefully Woody Marks is used accordingly, but also a little bit more in the pass game because he's really good at it.
Yeah, he's going to be RB1. He'll be the lead back, and then Woody will complement him, which in theory should make Woody Marks a more effective football player when you're not using him to bang into an offensive line that can't run block 20 times a game. It should make him a better football player. And, Montgomery can catch the ball a little bit, so it's not like you're in a total telegraph mode. And Woody, we saw him last year get some tough yards between the tackles. It's not what he's good at, but he got a couple of tough yards a few different times. So you're not in a situation where you are fully and wholly telegraphing everything depending on who the running back is in the game, because Montgomery can do a little bit about what Woody should do well, and Woody can do a little bit, not quite as good, but a little bit of what Montgomery could do well. So there's no, oh, well, that guy's coming in, he's the pass catcher. Like, there's not any sort of telegraphing from that standpoint.
Trey Calhoun on the chat says, does this mean we're likely out on Kenneth Walker? Yeah, 100%. Yes, they're done. They're not in them.
The skill set replication and just the financial cost, it's already just could they add another veteran in the depth chart? Sure. They're not shopping in free agency at the top anymore.
Logan Taylor says, heard we might be targeting Indy's right tackle.
That is Braden Smith, who's the former right tackle for the Colts. He's set to be a true free agent. Ended the season on IR with the Colts with a neck and head injury. So that's something that the Texans are going to have to get, pretty confident that that's healed up. And Smith also has missed time due to mental health. So that's another thing the Texans would have to feel confident is not a big issue. I'm not the biggest fan of Braden Smith, and that would not be where I would spend some of my free agency money if I was the Texans.
Rodzilla _2000 says, as far as tight ends, I know y'all said you were okay with Njoku. How do you feel about Dallas Goedert? I personally like him. He's a nice red zone target. Are they going to let him get on the market? That would be a big mistake by them.
Yeah, it does feel like Philly's going to try to keep him, and if they don't keep him, then it could be he'll be a very attractive free agent. He's just past 31 years old, and as he mentioned, very good in the red zone and productive player still. So if Philly lets Goddard walk, God, I hope they don't get Sadiq. He won't go that far down the board, but that'd be a mistake for Philadelphia. And I'd be intrigued to have Goddard here. Goddard for a couple of years. He's the veteran in the room after Schultz, and adjust down the depth chart after Goddard and Schultz. It's fine with me.
Trading Tytus can make room for Linderbaum. Question from Malik.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is, if you have 3 starting spots you need to fill, if you sign Tyler Linderbaum, you certainly improve the center spot greatly. You still need to go find 3 starters, because Jake Andrews, he obviously can't play tackle. He probably is not a starting guard. So while you're not spending as much on a running back as we had maybe allotted or thought they were going to, you could go get Linderbaum. You still need guards and a tackle at some point. And I still very much believe that you need to be leaning more towards veterans than betting on a bunch of kids in the draft to fully and wholly put this offensive line together.
Tazewell says, do y'all think they'll use Monty in the goal line Wildcat?
Do whatever you can to score touchdowns. I'm tired of Kaimi kicking field goals in the red zone.
Sir Wags, busy day-to-day bros. Is Montgomery a D'Amico guy? Well, obviously, I would say so.
It feels like, Detroit feels like they lost like a locker room leader, like a guy they love. Like, it feels like they were pretty bummed to see the human go, and they understood that it was time for the football player to move on.
Bearcat says, having to ask if the guy we acquired is the starter sums up this situation perfectly. Bearcat not big on this David Montgomery thing.
Yeah, if you wanted Kenneth Walker and you end up with David Montgomery, it's certainly a big downgrade for your expectation and your desire. You would hope that the savings get reinvested elsewhere throughout this roster to a point where you're satisfied with what they've built.
That Fort Worth guy says, is this the end of Woody's weekly walk off the field? I don't know. I don't know.
I would hope using him less creates less Woody's weekly walk off. WWWO.
Woody Dwayne Wade. Crazy Texan 6'3".
Paul Pierce Marks.
Does the big focus and money go toward the O-line now? And if so, what are your thoughts on who they'll go after?
I would think they would shift this money to offensive line. You look at the easiest way to guarantee that you're acquiring talent is to go and spend for it in free agency. You can hope that the board in the draft falls your way. Nick Caserio hoped a year ago, and he watched basically every first-round lineman come off the board before they even got on the clock. And nobody was moving around and letting him move up for any of those guys if he indeed did try to do so. Spending money, look, guards are expensive in free agency, and so are tackles. But if you've saved money at running back to then redistribute, I would redistribute on the offensive line. The names, there's numerous names, some of them short-term situations, some of them a bit more long-term situations. My favorite name at the guard spot is Isaac Seumalo from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a little bit older. He's 33. You could plop him in there at left guard for 2-3 years and still a very good football player. Been through some really important games in his time, played the Super Bowl for the Eagles, and was a little steadying force for the Steelers when he made the move over to Pittsburgh. So that's probably my top guy at guard that I'd like to see him go see. We've talked at length about Linderbaum at center, but again, you still need other positions. And then David Edwards, the guard from Buffalo, is a little bit more expensive option than I would have considered when they needed a big running back. But now that they have a running back in fold, maybe you would spend up to Edwards. He was most recently the Buffalo Bills left guard.
Swarm.
St. Louis Rebel, kind of piggybacking off that. What's the starting offensive line you want next year we could realistically afford to maximize Montgomery's talent? Shout out to you, St. Louis Rebel. We're going to go left to right here. We're going to put Cody on the spot. And by the way, we've heard a lot of whispers. Going back to last year, even when Ariante Ursi was playing, like the nerdy scouts that I listened to, they felt like he made more sense at right tackle, and kind of heard some whispers at the combine that maybe they want to move him to right tackle next year, which do with that what you will. What is the starting offensive line you would like to see, though, is the question he's asking.
Well, Landry's sort of hinting at it. If Trent Williams becomes available, I would like for him to be the left tackle of this football team. And then that would solve your left tackle and right tackle situation. Trent Williams at left tackle, you move Ariante Ursi to right tackle, and you've got a very intriguing tackle duo. You will need tackle depth because Williams has missed some time here the past couple of years. But I also feel like there's a chance of, hey, I'm coming to a team that really wants me. I like D'Amico Ryans. I'm back in Texas, and I'm just going to go out there and leave it all on the field for 2 seasons for you guys. So I think there's an element of that from Trent Williams. He would be my left tackle if he becomes available. To be determined if he becomes available. The 49ers, in my opinion, would be stupid to let that happen. If he comes available, I'd make him the left tackle. I'd put a rookie at left guard. I would have I'd have either Connor McGovern or Jake Andrews be the center. McGovern would be a free agent acquisition that you'd have to spend a little bit on. And then I would sign Kevin Zeitler to be the right guard for this team. He's 38 years old, I believe 37, 38 this upcoming season. He played for the Titans last year. 2 years ago, he's one of the best guards in football for the Detroit Lions. And then Ursi would be my right tackle. That's sort of the big dream. Now, it changes if Williams doesn't become available. I'd probably lean more towards veteran guards and then a rookie right tackle.
Yeah, so I don't agree with you that Trent Williams has missed a lot of time in the last couple of years. It has happened. This year he missed 16 games. He only played 10 in 2024, but that was when it was kind of a lost season. And the season got away from him, and he missed 7 games. But I think he could have probably played through that in a normal season, a normal 49ers season. He's actually doesn't miss as much time as you would think for someone that age. The other thing I like about Trent Williams, go ahead.
I mean, he's 38 years old. You have to have a good backup. Yeah,
I agree with that. But all I'm saying is people will look at 2024 and say, well, he missed 7 games. It's kind of like saying, well, Derek Stingley missed this many games when the Texans were, the season was lost. But the thing that I will say about Trent Williams is, number one, he's made it very clear for the last few years that he wants to play football as long as possible. This isn't like some situation where a guy's been eyeing retirement and he's got a big guy and all that. He's made it very clear he wants to play football as long as possible. That's what he said. Other thing, heading into this season, the 49ers are actually 4-12 without Trent Williams in the lineup. And you look at their offense, all the numbers when he actually plays, it's pretty phenomenal. And again, he played 16 games last year. He's also one of one. Like I was talking to someone earlier today, and it was like, he's 38, but he's one of one. Like this is the best left tackle in football, like probably in the recent era of football. Like there aren't better left tackles in his era. He is one of one. And the other thing is he's gonna want to be here. Like he's at the point in his life where he's not just gonna go play anywhere. He's gonna want to be here. He knows D'Amico Ryans. He has a house here. He lives here, and he's been training here his entire career. He's also a Longview guy. So I'm with you on the Trent Williams thing. I get the reservations. Father Time can catch up to anyone, but you don't have to sell me on Trent Williams.
Yeah, and I don't believe it would be some massive, expensive investment. It's funny you talk about Trent Williams because I think every tackle I talked to Saturday when they got asked about who do they watch, they all said Trent Williams, and most of them said, hey, like I understand I'm not Trent Williams and I never will be Trent Williams, but I still have to watch him. Like I still have to understand how he does things and try to accomplish what he does at the tackle spot. Like he is the gold standard. He's still one of the best left tackles in all of football. And if you get the opportunity to plop him on your team for 2 seasons, you do it. And you let Ursary figure out right tackle, which he could figure out right tackle. If he could have the season he had last year as a rookie at left tackle, he could figure it out at right tackle. And it was a lot harder, I'm sure, for Ursary to understand why he's playing right tackle when Cam Robinson is in his way. Well, when a gold jacket guy walks in and takes over left tackle, it's a little bit easier to go play right tackle.
Yeah, and it's kind of a culture thing. But yeah, I get the risk and I get the age. It would be a short term. I saw Seth say like Daniil Hunter type of thing. So yeah, Sir Wags on the chat says not sold on the Howard trade, but maybe they're not sold on him long term. Probably shouldn't be. He says Montgomery gives me motor Singletary vibes.
Ooh, he's better than Devin Singletary.
Tiemann says Montgomery is a great deal. Not a lot of miles either since he was a committee. Glad Tytus is gone. It's too expensive. I feel like the popularity of Tytus Howard, at least in our little bubble, which is kind of a big bubble, I don't think it's very high. I feel like Tytus Howard got the favorable pin, like locally, but I don't feel like there's like the people who watch the Texans 24/7. I don't think that there was like a massive like fan base of Tytus Howard. He was a good pick though. I will say this, like it's easy to talk about, but that ended up being a really solid draft pick that they made. I know it wasn't what people who initially wanted, but he ended up being a really, 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 really good pick.
Yeah, for a lot of the tackles that got drafted after him, he had a much better career. Obviously, a much better career than, or around him, I should say. Excuse me. He had a much better career than Andre Dillard. Andre Dillard, I don't think, isn't even in the NFL anymore. He had a better career than Cody Ford. Cody Ford's had to bounce around to a couple teams, in and out of starting lineups, and yeah, Tytus ended up having a really nice career, and he's going to have a very financially successful career when it's all said and done for him. And he ended up being a good pick. And I know not many people were in love with that selection, myself included, when he got picked back in 2019. And I still do wonder what the alternate timeline is where Bill O'Brien just gives him the chance to play left tackle instead of trading for Laramie Tunsil. I do wonder what that alternate timeline looks like. Which
was what we originally thought was going to be the plan and didn't end up happening. So,
right.
Yeah, there you go. So that's where they're at. They're definitely going to be doing a lot once free agency comes around, but they've trimmed some fat. And I don't think, much like last year, and Cam Robinson might be a bad example because he sucked. But I don't think you trade Tytus Howard without having something pretty big in mind. Like that's the thing for me. Like, say what you want about Tytus Howard. Like the fact, like we were hearing that maybe they want to put Ursary at right tackle and they do this. Like it just doesn't feel like you do this and then just say all of a sudden just shuffle and say, oh, now what do we do? Like it feels like this is a move that you make when you have something in mind.
I do wonder, and I would say I was not in favor of Ed Ingram coming back when Tytus was on the roster. I'm still not in favor of paying Ed Ingram.
The possibility definitely increased.
The possibility increased for Ingram to come back with Howard's exit. Still not in favor of paying him market value because it feels like market value for Ed's going to be somewhere between $12 and $16 million on average annual value. Don't believe in him to that level. But if he looked around and was like, yeah, I like the situation. I like the team. I like the offense. You guys are giving me maybe a fair deal, not necessarily market value, but a fair deal. I'm interested in coming back. It does for me kind of increase the chances that Ed Ingram's back for this team. You plop him at right tackle, and then you only have 2 starting spots. Yes, you spend a little money, but you only have 2 starting spots you need to go find on the offensive line, or 2 and a potential upgrade at center because we can't roll that out.
The next question is that it for the running back room? I still think they draft one a little bit later, but my answer to that question would be no. I don't think that is it. I think that's it as far as free agency and whatnot, but no, I don't think they're done at running back. I could see them kicking the tires on someone day 3, perhaps, maybe
I would very much like them to add a pure speed guy. This is not the fastest running back room we've ever seen. Jawar Jordan was slow in his 40 time. He's had some nice moments, but he's
Washington. Like,
yeah. Mike Washington would be the speed guy.
Yeah,
but he's a little bit heavier investment than some of these other running backs. But even if you just added a free agent that was primarily a speed guy, they do not have top end speed in that running back room. Woody's not running away from a lot of people. Montgomery's not running away from a lot of people. Jawar Jordan's not running away from a lot of people. So something from top end speed. Maybe that's a late draft pick investment on a guy that's primarily a speed guy. Or maybe it's a veteran who's got a little bit of juice left in the legs, but I'd like to see a little bit more speed in that running back room.
Yeah, they really need speed all around. I would like to see speed everywhere on offense, if we're being honest. Like, Jalen Noel's really the guy that's a burner. Outside of that, really not a ton of speed anywhere skill wise. Tight end, you could also probably get a little bit more athletic. I don't think you could be less athletic at tight end, quite frankly, especially with Jordan out last year. So the running back room, a little bit more speed. We can agree on that. Juice Scruggs, man, pour one out for him.
No, I'm good.
Cole Popovich has to be the happiest guy in the world that he didn't have to look at Juice Scruggs anymore. I've never seen a coach just clearly hate someone like Juice Scruggs. Now, here's my question, and this is where this is going, because we all know how they tried to avoid playing Juice Scruggs, and he was 3rd string in camp, and then Cam Robinson gets hurt. He's 2nd string. All of a sudden, he's on the team. He's not starting. He's starting. He's rotating, and then he's benched. For different guys all along the way, too. It's not like it was one guy. They basically tried to play like 20 guys instead of Juice Scruggs. Here's my question. We've seen 2 localized examples of teams kicking the tires on high draft picks that had failed after 3 seasons in their previous destinations. We saw Kenyon Green go to Philadelphia and continue to suck. And we saw Ed Ingram after sucking in Minnesota, injuries, all that we can say, but he wasn't good. He comes here, has a very good season, and sets himself up for perhaps a decent NFL career. Where does Juice Scruggs land when it comes to Kenyon Green kick the tires and Ed Ingram kick the tires? Where's he land?
He's way closer to the green side.
Okay.
Way closer.
Okay, but how close? How close?
Slightly above. Like, I'll be shocked if Juice Scruggs makes the Lions.
Did you see Pelisaro's tweet, by the way?
I have it pulled up. What a fucking idiot Pelissero looked like. This infuriated me. Dan Campbell wants the Lions to get back to playing their brand of football. And that starts with reestablishing a dominant offensive line. From the NFL.com pre-draft scouting report on Juice Scruggs. He plays like a block of granite. That fits. Yeah, Tom, if the scouting report in the pre-draft process was right, he wouldn't be getting traded. How stupid is this? You know what? Let me go back and find Jamarcus Russell's pre-draft scouting thing. saying,
Dude,
well, look at this.
That's what I was saying. What if in 2001, the Chargers, when they sent Ryan Leaf to the Cowboys, Tom Pelissaro, the equivalent of Tom Pelissaro, pulled up Ryan Leaf's pre-draft scouting report to talk about what the Cowboys were getting. He's played 3 years, brother. He's played 3 years, brother.
He got handed the starting spot, got hurt, missed most of the season, came back. They played him at left guard, and then basically never locked down the starting center spot after that. And Jared Patterson's a better football player than him. Patterson was drafted in the 6th round. It was a massive overdraft by Nick Caserio, according to draft prognosticators, when he drafted Scruggs. 2 to 3 rounds too early in most people's eyes. It never panned out for Scruggs. It never worked out here. He was a throw-in in a trade that primarily was about the 4th round pick in David Montgomery. There will be a new body occupying his uniform this fall.
Well, we were calling him Juice Blacklock at camp last year. And he was basically holding the bag 1 year later, but he's gone.
He only made the team because Cam Robinson got hurt.
Yeah.
Like Cam Robinson, in the initial offensive line configuration that they wanted to start before Cam Robinson got hurt in training camp, Juice Scruggs, to me, was not going to make the team. And then when Robinson got hurt and they shuffled some stuff around,
he was a bag holder. Like he was literally a bag holder. That's not exaggeration. He was the guy. He was the scout teamer holding the bag.
He went from like the 10th guy to the 9th guy and made the team.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I would say closer to Kenyon Green for sure. Zero doubt when it comes to Juice Scruggs. We hardly knew you, Juice Scruggs.
Notice one thing we have not done at any point. I haven't seen you say it. I haven't seen anybody in our chat talk about it. Anybody on social media. None of us, and thank God none of us have stooped to this level. I'm sure Pelissaro will at any moment. None of us have acted like Blake Fisher is an option here.
An option to what?
To do anything for this offensive line.
Like, no. The way that I function, and that's not even like a calculated effort. Like for me, I've been functioning this whole offseason as if Blake Fisher doesn't exist. Like that's really kind of where I'm at on that. Quite frankly, in my perfect world, and I don't know if this is realistic and I don't know if the assets are there, but in my perfect world, they draft a tight end that can catch a lot, like an Eli Stowers or something like that. And then they draft Roush out of Stanford, and instead of having to report tackle eligible, you just have a big ass tight end that can block.
It'd be nice.
That's kind of the world that I'm functioning in. But no, Blake Fisher, whatever, like you've seen guys turn it around. Blake Fisher had the worst training camp that I've ever witnessed in my entire time watching training camps. And he does not even like factor into the possibility. And when I talk about this offensive line, like I almost act like I can imagine them playing with 4 instead of starting Blake Fisher.
And it's worth noting, in the playoff game last year when they didn't have Trent Brown, they opted to play Jarrett Patterson at left guard rather than play Blake Fisher at right tackle. So he is not an option. He should not be considered a solution for any of the offensive line problems that the Texans have. And it will not surprise me if Blake Fisher is on a different football team before the offseason is over.
Yeah. Yeah, it would not surprise me. Cole Popovich, King Cole has been just completely cleaning house. You look at that offensive line in 2024. Tunsil, he gone. Tytus Howard, he gone. Juice Scruggs, he gone. Kenyon Green, he gone. And then
they got rid of Shaq Mason last offseason.
They got rid of Shaq. Like everybody's gone. So King Cole has been just completely cleaning house when it comes to the offensive line. And some would say, I was talking to someone today on the phone.
Hey, bro, Alpha Aaron here.
When he woke up, and he said that he was like, yeah, I don't think it's his call, bro. I think it's the GM. Dude, trust me, King Cole's calling the shots. And I really think that's what you hang your hat on if you're a Texans fan, because I saw that Wexler always tweets out like some good information. Adam Wexler over at 790, and he was laying out all Casario's fails on the offensive line, which are valid. But if you do want to go glass half full, which is kind of the way that I always kind of look at things. If you want to go glass half full, you didn't even laugh. I think that
it's ridiculous. I'm not giving you a laugh about that.
I think that the one thing that you can do, well, Cole Popovich took over overseeing the offensive line last year, and you had improvement. You've cleaned house, and the one draft pick that you've made with that structure, that organizational structure in place, you feel good about the pick. So if you want to look at it that way, I think you can. And I would tend to think that Cole Popovich has a pretty big role in picking the offensive line. I think there's a lot of times where position coaches or whatever, like they don't have much of a say. I tend to believe that Cole Popovich has a pretty big say, just with the presence, just with the fact that they trusted him when he was in the building, the overall connection to Caserio and to Kaylee. Like, it feels like this is someone that they would trust on the offensive line. Oh, yeah. And by the way, that they weren't worth a shit at picking offensive linemen for a long time with Nick Caserio. So I actually think King Cole has a little bit of pull when it comes to the O-line.
I'll be very interested to see what their free agency investment is, obviously. And if you get better football players, like I would say that Ariante Arcery had a really good season for a rookie left tackle that was sort of thrown into it. And certainly, not the position that he spent the entirety of the offseason preparing for either. So I credit Cole Popovich for that. That's the first action Jake Andrews has had in the NFL. And there were some okay moments. Could you upgrade? Sure. Could you do worse? Yeah, I've seen it. His name's Hugh Scruggs. Ed Ingram played the best football of his career. Now, Ed Ingram was also the healthiest he's been. Maybe this system fits Ed Ingram, but Cole Popovich is the coach there. Cam Robinson's not worth a damn anymore. I don't know. That's not a Cole Popovich thing. Laken Thomas is not a good football player anymore. That's not a Cole Popovich thing. Trent Brown, guts out whatever he guts out for you. Like, that's a guy, because he previously worked with Cole Popovich and Popovich trusted him, was there. He was the best right tackle they had last year. Popovich did some really nice stuff with the offensive line.
I think Tytus Howard grew professionally. I think you could see it and you could hear it. I think Tytus Howard actually grew too. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, the Caserio body of work when it comes to the offensive line is what it is. But I think there is like a tangible in front of you change with King Cole calling the shots, and so far so good. So if you don't trust Caserio when it comes to the offensive line, cool. But I do think there's tangible proof that King Cole is in charge, and so far so good with King Cole.
Also, if Nick Caserio touts consistency, watch out. They've got a consistent coaching staff. New quarterbacks coach. The offensive line, I really liked what they did last year. Two of these guys showing the door. You're out of here.
Sir Wag says, who would you rather have, Scruggs or City? Scruggs.
Scruggs.
Yeah, Scruggs. That is one weird thing Cole Popovich did, although it was 5 plays.
They fixed it real quick.
Ex Byron Lee.
Let me rephrase. DeMeco Ryans fixed it real quick. Get that guy the F out of here.
Ex Byron Lee. What are we doing here? He says, so no, I don't want no Scruggs. The Scruggs is a guy who can't play O-line for me, hanging from the penalty side of the holding call.
I thought you were going to sing it.
No,
I don't want no Scruggs. Scruggs is a guy that can't play O-line for me.
Yeah, no.
That was good. I like that. It's well played, sir.
Very well played. Well done by you. All right, so that's where we're at. Big day for Nick Caserio. So we have an announcement when it comes to our favorite place in one of our favorite times of the year. We will be at Spanky's twice this month, March Madness. So we will be there for the Friday of free agency on the 13th, Friday the 13th, the Friday of free agency, where things will shape up even more. So that's the 13th.
Oh, we got 2 Friday the 13th in back-to-back months. That's unique.
We will also be there the 27th, which will be less than 1 month away from the draft, and we will have some draft madness. So join us on the 13th. Join us on the 27th at Spanky's. By the way, the 27th will also be Sweet 16 March Madness games. So perhaps the Cougs will be playing or someone else. So join us there for that. We look very, very much forward to hanging with y'all during what, good Lord, is already a very active off season. It's only going to get crazier.
Yeah, we might be celebrating a really fun offensive line class a week from Friday, or we might be drowning our sorrows that they went bargain shopping again. I hope it's the former, not the latter.
Yeah, I anticipate this to be a very, very interesting, active, satisfying free agent period heading into the draft. I anticipate that.
There's some, I mean, I really like some of these free agents, and I've gone over them a couple different times on the Houston Football channel and at Houston Football in the newsletter / website. I really like some of these free agents. I really feel strongly that they're big time upgrades over what the Texans have been putting out there. So I'm very interested to see where the Texans ultimately go on this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. It's been an active day, and it's only going to get more active. Texans Collective with me, you, Sean, and Reggie tonight at 6. Locker room 10:30. We'll put some different wrinkles on what's going on and loosen up the vibe a little bit. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Subscribe, like, right along. I'll just be honest. I'm looking at a card pool. You won't believe what someone just pulled. I don't even know if people even know what this is, but I told you the Bengals were a big deal, right? And this new product. I said they were the team. So they're opening 10 boxes. Their spot went for $100, but they did the team pick thing that you always love. Someone just pulled a Jamar Chase autograph, numbered 1 of 1, which is a jersey match.
Oh my God. That's like a $700, $800 card.
Dude.
That's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. See y'all at Spanky's. See y'all in the Texans Collective.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
By the way, when you say plop an offensive line at a certain spot, is that a fat joke?
It's not a fat joke.